I'm in a brewery. Last week I was in a supercar factory, now I'm in a brewery. This is a very good trip. so this is the old Stella Artois brewery in Belgium, and I'm in Leuven in Belgium, which is this little city, university city, about 100,000 people, not too far out of Brussels. And I've just done a talk at the Zion Security Conference, which they held in a brewery. I mean, it's an old, unused brewery, but it is still a brewery with massive, big freaking brewery kettles, which is kind of cool. So this sort of week has been Belgium and doing lots of Belgian things, which does mean quite a bit of Belgian beer as well. So it's been a good trip. I got over here on the weekend. I had a day off on Sunday. I went to Antwerp, wandered around there, did my usual let's meet some random Twitter followers, met a lovely bloke I went and had a coffee with after I got to Antwerp. Just people I'd never met before, had a bit of a chat with on the net. Met up with another bloke. He took me for a walk under the river in Antwerp, which was cool, big tunnel. And he gave me 2 bottles of what is allegedly the world's best beer. So this is what they say. Got these massive ratings. It's called Westvleteren. Someone Belgian will tell me I've totally screwed that up. But all I know is it's made by monks, and you've got to drive to the place, and you've got to register, and you can only get like 1 crate at a certain time of year. Anyway, I'm going home with a couple of bottles of that. I'm going home with a lot of bottles of other stuff too, because I did a workshop on Monday and Tuesday in Mechelen, and then I went and did a user group talk, and a bunch of really awesome Belgian followers gave me a bunch of really awesome Belgian beer, which is probably going to exceed my weight limit. So let's just say I'm trying to reduce the weight as much as I can in advance, and then we'll see how we go from there. So I did a couple of days in Mechelen. I came over to Leuven on Tuesday afternoon, did a couple of days workshop in Leuven, which has been really good, which is where I am just here. Just came off the stage having done another talk, my lessons from billions of breached data records. So I've wrapped that one up, and I have one more evening of drinking beer with a mate here in Leuven, and then I'm off to Stockholm tomorrow. And while I'm on that, I still have, no, where am I going? Copenhagen. Don't go to Stockholm. Copenhagen. I just follow TripIt. So I will be in Denmark. And while I'm there, I still have some spots available left in my workshop, which is going to be on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's almost all sold out. There's just a few tickets left. So if you want to come along to that and you are around the Stockholm area, oh shit, where is it? Copenhagen. If you're in the Copenhagen area, do that. And incidentally, I have not drunken anything out of these kettles today. It's just been a lot of travel. Anyway, moving on. That was the first thing, lots of moving around. On Tuesday, I did some Belgium TV, and I did an interview which was run by one of the local TV stations, which was great. It went on the TV that night, and I was sitting in the hotel. I had the iPad there, and for some reason, just randomly, I decided I'll open my Google Analytics, see how my current users are going. I suddenly went from a couple of hundred users to about 6,000 users on the site at once, because it turns out that Belgians are really interested in Have I Been Pwned. Long story short, like I had happened with the Money Matters show in the UK last month, it crashed Have I Been Pwned. So I lost probably about 1 to 2 minutes worth of traffic whilst I manually scaled the thing out. I've got to get on top of this issue, which is to try and maintain a low cost base, but then still be able to scale when traffic goes absolutely nuts within the space of 60 seconds. And it's the same problem I've written about before and explained before, which is this massive increase of traffic in a way where it is organic traffic, it's natural traffic, but there's no gradual ramp up. And I've got to have a better look at how to do that, because I don't like losing traffic in cases like this. I also don't like paying loads of money for resources to sit there 99.9% of the time and do nothing, just in case Belgium decides it wants to all jump on Have I Been Pwned at once. Anyway, interesting challenges. Look, it's a project that's out there that's meant to be available for free and for information purposes. If it goes offline for a bit, no one gets too upset. I'd still like to fix it. If you've got any great ideas, let me know, and I'm going to put some proper thought into it when I get home as well. So that was Belgian TV and Have I Been Pwned. Now, Another thing happened yesterday which I knew was going to happen. It was just a question of time, but I didn't think would happen this early. And this relates to a blog post that I wrote earlier today about a site called Leaked Source. And look, Leaked Source was one of many different data breach websites that have popped up. Similar to Have I Been Pwned in some ways, insofar as you could search for accounts on there. Very different philosophically. And what was really different philosophically is that the folks running this, and we don't yet know who was actually running it because they went to some lengths to keep their identity private. Folks running this decided that what they'd do is they would sell access to data, to anyone's data, not just email addresses, but all the data they had. So we'd have these situations, and I've got examples of this in my blog post, where people had actually searched for me. A mate of mine actually searched for me. He'd paid however much it was, I think it was only a few bucks a day or something, and he had found the data breaches I was in, which okay, I know about those, but he'd also managed to retrieve from there my IP address. One of them was my old home IP address before I moved house. It was legitimate. He had found password hashes. He'd found the salt. He'd found a cracked password. They were going through and cracking passwords and then selling them to whoever wanted to pay them money. There were no controls on what you actually accessed. So you could pay a few bucks, go on, and then grab anyone's data. Now, this site appeared, I think, about late 2015. It obviously got a lot of data last year. It was often out there sort of aggregating large breaches and making them available in a similar way as Have I Been Pwned was. But I was always really worried about the risk that they put people at by literally selling access to sensitive personal information. And every now and then someone would go, you know, hey, what do you think about Leaked Source? And I go, oh, look, I don't really like what they're doing, but you know, let's sort of go on and all do our own things. I did expect that this would happen at some time, and what appears to have happened, all this is alleged as well. I mean, all we know is that they've disappeared off the face of the earth, and there's a paste bin post from someone making claims about Fed takedowns. And it was going to have to happen because you can't just go out there and sell sensitive personal information like this at the expense of the victims and operate with impunity. Now, it was going to be a matter of time. I thought it would be later than this. I'm a little bit surprised it happened this early. I suspect that it may have been a catalyst from one of the data breaches that they had quite recently. There's a bit of speculation about which one it might be. I'm not going to contribute to unsubstantiated speculation on that front, but it's possible that they upset the wrong people. They upset LinkedIn last year. LinkedIn sent them a cease and desist, to which they responded that LinkedIn was blowing smoke up their ass, which is maybe not sort of the most mature way to respond to a company making legal threats. So there was that. There was a suspension from Twitter a few months ago as well. They got booted off there. I'm not entirely sure why, but I imagine that it's related to the fact that they were promoting a service which ultimately led to the exploitation of people. And this is the problem, right? This is what kept happening. We would see time and time again tweets from people saying, I have used Leaked Source in order to jack someone's account. So hijack someone's account, use the username and password from there and either take over the account that it had been leaked in or go and take over other accounts where the same credentials have been reused. So this was a really worrying behaviour. And it was worrying not just in terms of the direct impact on people, but it was a little bit worrying for me insofar as from the perspective of what does this do to service like Have I Been Pwned? So what's the perception of data breach websites? And look, I'm glad that this has sort of wrapped up in the way it appears to have, and we're yet to sort of see what's actually happened. I guess the thing that we've got to keep in mind here is that this is very sensitive personal information that's in these data breaches. It has been taken illegally out of systems, and at the end of the day, companies are not real happy about it, and the individuals are not real happy about it. Now, I'm not sure what the future is going to hold for Have I Been Pwned in terms of, for example, will I get to the point where I say, let's not make any of the data publicly searchable. So maybe let's make everything sensitive, flag everything as sensitive. Because at the moment, if I flag a breach as sensitive, you've actually got to get an email to see what you're in. Okay, so should I get to the point where nothing is publicly searchable? Now that would then rule the system out for a lot of people. It would also make it unsustainable for me in terms of actually sending all the emails I would have to send, because emails are expensive and hard to send reliably. It'd break all the APIs. So there are all sorts of other ramifications. And I guess the one thing that I can be confident in saying is that it'll have to keep evolving. And if public sentiment changes, if regulations change, if it becomes infeasible to run it safely and responsibly the way it is at the moment, then it will adapt. And that's fine. I have absolutely no problem with that. Until that time, then you'll keep sort of heading in this direction. And as I say in the blog post, I literally think about this every single day. It's something that's continually on my mind about how do I run this thing responsibly. And I think that by virtue of the way it's been handled to date, it's managed to operate quite successfully. I've never had any concerns from companies that I've loaded data for. In fact, some of them have actually given me the data. Never had any concerns from law enforcement. I've had concerns from a tiny fraction of 1% of individuals whose data has been in there, and I've always replied to them and smoothed things over very quickly. So I think that's the best way to operate, openly, transparently, honestly. It always worries me when I see someone operating anonymously, and I just question why. This is not people being anonymous because they're persecuted in a country that has limitations on free speech or human rights. It's not that sort of anonymity. It was the sort of anonymity where we're going to do bad things that we know we could get into trouble for. Let's try and make it harder for people to find us. Now, obviously in this case, people have found them, things have been shut down. So I'm interested to sort of see how this plays out. I'm really interested to see also over 2017 how the sentiments towards trading in personal data actually change, if at all. I think we've got a really big problem at the moment where we have so many people with so much data sharing it between each other without any thought of the consequences. Particularly happens a lot with kids or young adults, and I often talk about this in my talks, and I show so many examples of people fitting into that genre, handling your data, my wife's data, and just handing it around like they're playing cards, baseball cards, I got this one, have you got that one? We'll swap it, we'll change it. This is a big problem. So look, we'll see where all this goes over the coming year and indeed time beyond that. And until then, like I say, I just got to keep doing what I do and try to do it in the most responsible way possible, and we'll see how it all pans out. So that is that. The other thing, very last thing, is I am this week again sponsored by NetSparker. Those guys are doing a great job with the tools they make of my own free volition, totally independently of their sponsorship. I've written a lot about them in the past, and I always show them in my workshops as a great way of doing dynamic analysis that humans can read the results from. I've seen a lot of dynamic analysis reports in the past very orientated towards security professionals that developers have trouble actually understanding and grasping. And I love NetSparker for the way it makes that information so consumable. So big thanks to those guys. Go check them out via the link, which will be somewhere up there on the top of my blog if you're watching the video, or if you're listening to the audio, head over there and you'll find a link through to them. So thank you very much for watching. A week from now, I'll be on an aeroplane somewhere on the way home to much warmer conditions. So I'm not quite sure where I'll be when I record this or when I'll get it up, but there will be one in about a week. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my update from the brewery.